Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dulya Gunathilaka and an architectural student of Slade School of Architecture. So welcome you all to the first episode of the discussion forum, which is organized by the Sri Lanka Institute of Architects. And Mr. Jean Vergain is the Water and Habitat Coordinator of International Committee of Red Cross Colombo. He has worked for both private companies and the International Committee of the Red Cross internationally as a project manager in hydrogeology and water and sanitation programs in several countries and regions. He holds a master and an engineering degree in geology and a postgraduate diploma in hydrogeology as well. Beyond his academic education, he has also developed competencies in coordination and management of programs and projects in complex crises on water supply, vector control, hygiene, design, construction, and sanitation. So welcome on stage Mr. Jean Vergain to do his presentation with the title of Why Prison Design Matters.
Yeah, my name is Jean Vergain. I'm from Switzerland. I'm working with the International Committee of the Red Cross. I'm here now in the country coordinating the Water and Habitat unit that we have in the International Committee of the Red Cross. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak this afternoon and to speak about a very particular topic, which is the design of prison. So maybe just as maybe not all of you are informed about the International Committee of the Red Cross. International Committee of the Red Cross, they have a specific mandate. It's a humanitarian organization, and the mandate is to protect and assist the civilian and military victim of armed conflict and internal disturbance on the strictly neutral and impartial basis. Maybe you have heard about the ICRC, mainly during the war. We were quite active in the north, being a neutral intermediary between the two parties. Today, we are still in Sri Lanka for more than 30 years, and we are still responding to remaining humanitarian needs of people affected by the past armed conflict. We work as well on the missing people, their family, and the dead. We as well work concerning the people deprived of freedom, so everything to do with prison. We work on the dignity for the dead, and we promote the respect for international humanitarian law and human rights law. And we strengthen the Sri Lanka Red Cross with our partner here. We strengthen their response capacity to emergency and to promote humanitarian value. That's just a short introduction about the International Committee of the Red Cross. So now let's go for the topic, why prison design matters. So you can already wonder what the ICRC, an international organization, humanitarian organization, is working in the field of prison and in the field of prison design. Actually, we are visiting prison for more than now, let's say at least 70 years, and I think that we have quite a big experience in prison and in prison design as well. So we are visiting detainees, but small by small we develop competencies in terms of water, sanitation, infrastructure, and more now we are working on the prison design, thanks to our competencies that we acquired during the last decades somehow. So we are collaborating quite a lot here in Sri Lanka with the Department of Prison. Maybe you maybe know that they are more and more speaking about rehabilitation center instead of prison. So it really goes in the direction of the topic of your session, architecture for well-being. We try to make prison a bit more, not attractive, but a bit more better for the detainees. Prison can have two different aspects. The prison design can add to the suffering which come to a loss of liberty, or the prison design creates a conducive environment which contribute to the rehabilitation of the detainees into the society, and more the country are going for the second aspect of it, not being only deprived of freedom, but trying to readapt the people and to rehabilitate them in order, because at the end of the day, they will end up in the society. So we really have to make sure that they will be ready to that. And the Department of Prison in Sri Lanka have a project, a 5-year project, to relocate and to build new prisons. So it's very, very timely. If we think about prison design, an effective prison planning and design facilities, the basic thing is the analytical thinking about the built environment. You can see on the, should have, yeah. Well, you see that really the prison, it's never just a closed environment. You have the prison in the middle, and then you have the visitor, you have the local community, and the society. So when you are designing a prison or planning a prison, you have to think about all of those different aspects. And you have to think about the long-term consequences of the design. And of course, the design of the prison should reflect the culture, the value, and the goal. I mean, you are not going to build the same prison as we are building in Europe. You are not going to replicate the same prison here because the culture is different. So you really have to adapt the architecture of the prison to the culture of the population and to what they expect. And of course, as you know, and you will see, I've seen the title from other presentation, the design impact a lot on the behavior, the attitude, and the emotion. So already it's very, very important. Basically, we have 4 design principles. The first one is do not harm. It's here. Basically, someone who already is condemned to be deprived of freedom, it's already a sentence. So you don't have to add another layer on that by having bad infrastructure or the infrastructure which are not adapted. So we call it the double sentence. So we try to avoid that as much as possible. The second principle is to maintain a maximum normality. So the person who is already deprived of freedom doesn't have the possibility to get out. So he has to find as much as possible, not the same normality because it's simply not possible, but to be as close as possible as the normality that we have outside. The principle number 3 is to promote health and personal growth. It's a matter of dignity of the person, and to respect the person and to make sure that this person can stay healthy during his time in the prison. And then the fourth one is to maintain connection with the society. You know that the person should have the possibility to see what is outside, to be informed about the outside world, to receive visitors, to see his family, to see his friend maybe, and to keep a kind of contact with the outside world. So basically, a prison is a whole community. There is official and parallel economies in the prison. It's very interesting. In prison, you will find exactly what you find outside the prison. It's the same system, but smaller. You have the different people. You have the different habits. You have an economy. You have a trade. You have a black market, and it's a bit. You have an official market, and it's the same. It's the same as you can find outside the prison. You have, of course, the governments and the administrative and executive, and prison is with public infrastructure essential for the normal functioning. And one thing which is very important, it's the population in the prison depends completely on the quality of their environment. If you are outside the prison and you are living, I don't know, in a flat or in a house which is not satisfying, you can always get out and go to have a walk in the forest or on the seaside and to change your mind. But in a prison, once you are in, you stay in. So it's very, very important to have a, let's say, a better environment, a good environment, and to reduce the stress and the vulnerability of the people. And we said that architecture is not only affects society on the high level, but also more personal level. It can have a profound impact on its occupant. So it's why we are trying to change a bit the habits in the prison and to make it more human, let's say. For example, this study has been done in New York City, and they just studied the depression, the 4 different diseases who have problem with the depression, bipolar affective disorder, the psychosis, and the psychoaffective. And they just noticed that just by repairing the bathroom, painting the wall, and making the environment of the prison be nicer, they reduced by 50% the case of depression of those 4 diseases. So it's very, very important, and it's not. There are simple things to do which have a very, very high impact. If we go a bit further, if the idea is really to go from the punishment, as we say, as we can see above with the picture, the guy alone is in cell or something not very, very friendly, to the rehabilitation with, if possible, nicer building and the possibility for vocational training, people discussing together, and so on. To do that, but that's the brief. The brief is very, very important at the beginning. Like each and every project, we do exactly the same. So we have the law, we have the regulation, we have to know what we want, the capacity, the staff, the typology of the prison, the type of facilities and service, the special and space requirement, which is very, very important. The problem with the prison, as the budget for prison are not very, very high normally, the land or the design land for building a prison is, let's say, not always adapted to the construction, and can be quite a bit of problem. So for that, there are existing law, there are recommendations. I don't know if you are aware about the Mandela rules. Mandela rules are recommendations that you have to apply for the prison, including the infrastructure, the ventilation, the food, the space per detainees, etc. So we start really by that and trying more and more to go towards a human prison. And then when we go a bit more in details, we have the standard. For example, in Sri Lanka here we have some national standard edited by the UDA, and that we have to respect, but it's not exactly the same as a public building. We have to think about we have to think about the prison, we have to think about the typology, which is very important, we'll see that later, the concept, the design, and then you have to decide how many square meter per person, how many taps, how many toilets, and things like that, and there are very, very few norms or recommendations on that. Everyone is speaking about the international recommendation, but basically they don't exist, or they're very, very, very vague, like the Mandela rules, saying the prison should have a good ventilation. But as an architect or engineer, you know that it doesn't mean a lot of things, you know. And then you see those 2 yellow books here that's published by the International Committee of the Red Cross. It's really based on their experience in visiting different prisons around the world. So we did the recommendation. They are not norms, but they are more minimum standard that we have at least to respect to build a prison in order to make the life a bit easier for the detainees. And below those recommendations, then you have a lot of health problems. The public health is really at risk. And not only for the detainees, don't forget that detainees, they are detainees, but they are staff as well. And the staff is exactly at risk. If there is a problem in the prison, then the staff is at risk as well. We have seen that in few places where there is an epidemic or there is a problem in the prison or the people is revolting, mutilating, then there is an impact on the staff as well. And so basically, we are working with the Department of Prison to issue the prison brief, all the different articles and different laws that they have to use for the concept of the prison. And then we are working with them to establish a national minimum standard. And we are at the beginning of the process, but we really like, they really would like to have a document with the minimum standard and to show to the architect, to the engineer, that's the minimum that we have to respect, and that's the way we want to have a prison. And for example, here we have 3 different typology of prison. It can be the so-called campus typology. So then it's depending a lot about the staff, about the possibilities, about the different cluster that you have in your prison. Then we have the cluster typology, like you see in the middle. So in terms of security, can be better because it requires less staff, for example. But if there is a problem, you can see everything is centralized in the middle. So it can be difficult to manage in case of a big security problem. Or you have the integrated typology where everything is at the same place in the same building. So everything has to be decided according to the security, the type of security that you want for the prison, and then the design or the space that the space available for the prison. Then you have to think about the blocks, the hospital area, because you need to have a kind of hospital, if not an hospital, at least a health post or health services, the kitchen, which is very important. You have to feed all the detainees. The sport area, the gardening, administration, and then you have to think how the people is going to pass from one zone to another one. For example, here you have the wall. You can see the basketball, against the wall, so the people, the detainees, doesn't see necessarily a wall, but they can see a place to play basketball, and it changed completely their mind. And in terms of mental health, is better. Like the same as in the picture on the right-hand side, you see that it's not a wall, but they are grill. Okay, but that's basically the same. But I mean, for you, the horizon is more far, and you can have better view, and as well it's better for the mental health of the detainee. So all those things have to be included in the concept of the prison. Then, if we go very, very far, we can imagine to have nice prison like that. They are not prison, that's a simulation center. But why not, as an architect, to go a bit, to think out of the box and to go to give further, and mainly to use the natural light and natural ventilation. So it's not yet the case, but maybe in the next 50 years we will be able to reach this point. For example, there are small things. The sound. You can imagine in the prison, in normal prison, there is a lot of sound because it's closed, everything is in metallic, you have the grill and things like that, so it's very stressful for the people. Being the guards or being the detainees, it's very stressful. And there was a study in UK, I will not go into details, but they show that already by reducing the problem of echo to improve the sound, the mental health of the detainees, of the people living in the premises is much better. So there are small things like that to think about it. I'm thinking about the roof in case of rain. I'm thinking about a lot of things. Natural ventilation. We will see that at the next slide. Trying to maintain the maximum of normality with a decent building. As much as possible to have a nice environment. There is always a problem. We are able to build something like that if there is a budget, but we don't have to forget that the cost of the building, if you consider the total cost of a building over, I don't know, 70 years, the cost of the building is about 20%, I would say, depending on the level of security. 20% of the cost, that's for the construction of the building. And then you have 80% of the cost for operation and maintenance during the lifespan of your building. And that's a problem. That's very often a problem. You most probably know that the operation and maintenance in the prison is not the priority because of budget, because of things like that. So we can make something very nice, but at the same time we have to take into consideration the cost of the operation and the cost of the maintenance and try to reduce it as much as possible. It's important as well. So it's always a balance. For example, here there are different activities that we have. We can see the windows, we can see a nice environment, a nice building as well. It's in not in Cambodia. In Cambodia. Yeah, sorry. Of course, we have to have space for the religion, being Christian, Buddhist, Hindu or Muslim, for example. Here, that's 4 different places for the religion. We have to accommodate that as well. So a maximum of normality for the building. And more and more we try to get as much as possible to include the natural element like rainwater harvesting, which reduce the cost of the water because the cost is very high. Natural ventilation, you can see on the picture below on the left-hand side, that's a natural ventilation, and for the country with the climate like here, it's very important. And we can have solar system or solar water heater as well to reduce the cost of for example, in the kitchen, to reduce the cost and the consumption of wood to heat the water to cook. Here we have another element, it's in Thailand, the Ministry of Justice. It's as well the planning, and they were designing everything in terms of in the goal of using the natural ventilation. One thing that we have more and more to think about is the climate change. Climate change and flood prison. Here, I don't think that it happened, but there were a lot of problems in Cambodia. And you can see on the picture, it's not only the infrastructure which are destroyed, but all the files of the detainees were destroyed. So when planning a new prison as well, we have to see the location, if the location is safe, if it's a flood-prone area, if there is a risk of landslide and things like that. It's very important. Here I put as the last slide the common mistake that we can see when we don't take into consideration and we don't meet the international standard or recommendation. Very often the prison, the security is too high, so it's costing a lot to the state, to the government, because they are sure that they have to build the highest security prison, and instead, in fact, there are very few people which require high security. So it's very often a mistake or a misestimation, let's say. Lack of general hygiene, if it's not respected, if there are too many people at the same place, or not enough water, not enough space, not enough space to bath, space to make sport or things like that, but there will be a lack of general hygiene for the prison. Very often, as I said, they have a problem with the land, and land is limited, so there is no capacity for future expansion. Very often as well, they don't realize that when you build a prison, you are going to bring something like between 1,000 and 2,000 people on that, and they just say, yeah, you just connect to the water board and then to the for the drinking water and for the sewage, but they don't realize that often simply the capacity of the water board, capacity of the network is not enough to accommodate the prison. So everything has to be synced before. The poor light level and inadequate ventilation, we already spoke about that. And if we want to apply purely civilian specification in a prison environment, for example, a hospital, 80% of the hospital for a prison is the same outside, but there are still 20% which are very, very specific to the prison. And that we have to know that and to take it into consideration. So then lack of exercise area, and then introducing a non-sustainable security feature. Very often authorities want the highest security, as I say, including CCTV and all those funny gadgets and fancy gadgets, and everything has a cost. Then you have to maintain it. So from time to time, it's better to have a nice windows than to have camera everywhere. So there are plenty of different points like that they have to be taken into consideration if you want to have a, let's say, more human prison. Voilà, thank you very much. I think that my time is off. I don't know if there are some questions or we proceed with you. So thank you very much. And of course, if you want more information, we are always available to answer to the question. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Jean Vergain.